On Thanksgiving, I cooked an entire meal with love, hoping my family would appreciate it, but they mocked my food and ordered pizza instead, and that night I realized my efforts were invisible to the people I loved most. I spent 14 hours making that Thanksgiving dinner. 14 hours of my I'll never get back. Sarah was working a double shift at the hospital again. Third holiday in a row she'd missed because someone else called out sick. I told her I'd handle everything. Turkey stuffing, cranberry sauce from scratch, her grandmother's sweet potato casserole recipe that took me 3 tries to get right. I wanted to prove something, that I could step, that I wasn't the guy who ordered takeout when got hard. The turkey came out perfect. Golden brown, juicy, carved like I'd watched my dad do every year growing. The house smelled like home, like the family I thought we were building. Sarah got home at 4 p.m. exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, still in scrubs. She barely looked at the spread I'd laid out on our dining table. The good china. The works, smells good, she mumbled, heading straight for the shower. That should have been my first warning. Her sister Emma arrived with her boyfriend Jake 20 minutes later. Emma took one look at the table and wrinkled her nose. Did use the pre-made stuff from the store? No, everything's homemade, even the cranberry sauce. Jake poked at the stuffing with his fork. Looks kinda dry, man. I felt something inside my chest, just a hairline fracture, nothing I could ignore. Sarah came down looking beautiful but distant. She sat at the table like she was doing me a favor. Emma kept making faces at the food. Jake pushed everything around his plate without actually eating. The turkey's a little overcooked, Sarah said quieter. I did my chest split wider. I've been since 5 a.m. basting that turkey every 30 minutes. Checking temperatures, following every step of the recipe I'd researched for weeks. Sorry, I said. I thought okay, it's fine, Sarah said, but her voice had that tone. The one that meant it wasn't fine at all. Emma pulled out her phone. Know what? I'm craving pizza. There's this place that delivers on holidays. My hands were shaking, actually shaking. I spent all day on this meal. And it's sweet, Emma said, not looking from her phone. But pizza just sounds better right now. Jake nodded. Yet, no offense, but I could go for some actual good food. I looked at Sarah, waited for her to say something, to defend the effort I'd made, to acknowledge that I tried to create something special for us. She was looking at her phone too. Pizza does sound good, she said. The in my chest became a canyon. They ordered 3 large pizzas, pepperoni supreme Hawaiian. The kind of grease-soaked garbage I could have gotten without spending my entire day in the kitchen. I sat there watching them eat pizza off paper plates while my homemade meal got cold on the good china. Nobody said thank, nobody acknowledged what I'd done. I felt invisible, like I was disappearing right there at my own dining table. That's when I started thinking about Jessica from work. Jessica always complimented my lunch when I brought leftovers. Who asked about my day and actually listened to the answer? Who noticed when I got a haircut or wore a new shirt? Jessica, who saw me, I told it was innocent when I started staying late to help her with projects. When our conversations moved from work to personal stuff. When she started texting me about random things, just friends. I kept saying, but I knew after Thanksgiving Sarah was back at work. Emma had gone home with her leftover pizza. The house felt empty and cold. I was scraping my untouched meal into the garbage disposal when my phone buzzed. Jessica, how was holiday? Did famous cooking skills impress everyone? She remembered. She actually remembered that I'd been excited about cooking. Me, not exactly. They ordered pizza instead. Jessica, their loss. It was amazing. Such simple words. But they felt like water in a desert. Jessica, want to grab a drink? I'm having a rough night too. I stared at that message for 10 minutes. I should have said no. I should have gone to bed and talked to Sarah about how I felt. I should have been the man I promised to be when I proposed to her 6 months ago. Instead I typed, give me 20 minutes. The wedding invitations were still sitting in a box on our kitchen counter. I walked past them on my way out the door, and I swear they felt like they were watching me. Judging me, warning me, but I was so tired of being invisible. So tired of my efforts meaning nothing. So tired of feeling like I was disappearing in my own. Jessica was waiting at Murphy's bar on 5th Street. She'd changed out of work clothes into jeans and a sweater that made her eyes look incredible. She stood and hugged me when I walked in. A real hug. The kind Sarah hadn't given me in months. Look like need this more than I do, she said, sliding a whiskey across the table. We talked for 3 hours. About everything. Work stress, family drama, dreams we'd given on. She told me about her divorce, how her ex-husband had made her feel small. How he'd never noticed when she tried to make their house a home. It felt like looking in a mirror. Deserve better than that, she said, her hand finding mine across the table. So do, I said. The bar was closing. We were the last 2 people there. My apartment's just around the corner, she said softly. I thought about Sarah. Probably asleep by now, exhausted from another double shift. Probably not even wondering where I was. I thought about that Thanksgiving dinner rotting in our garbage disposal. I thought about how invisible I felt in my own. Okay, I said. We walked to her apartment in silence. The cold November air should have cleared my head, should have reminded me what I was about to throw away. But all I could think about was how Jessica's hand felt warm in mine. How she looked at me like I mattered. How she saw me when everyone else looked right through me. I was so desperate to be seen that I couldn't see what I was about to destroy. Her apartment door closed behind us with a soft click. The sound of everything I'd built crumbling to dust. I woke in Jessica's bed at 6 a.m. with my soul on fire. Not the good kind of fire. The kind that burns everything I've ever cared about. Sarah's engagement ring was still in my pocket. I'd forgotten to take it off before everything changed. Jessica was still sleeping. She looked peaceful, beautiful. In the gray morning light streaming through her curtains, I could pretend for about 30 seconds that this was my now. Then reality crashed down like a building collapse. I was a cheater. The word felt foreign in my brain. Like trying on clothes that don't fit. But there it was, branded into my DNA now. Part of who I was. I got dressed in yesterday's clothes and called an Uber. Jessica stirred when I heard her forehead. Goodbye. Text me, she whispered. I nodded, but I already knew I wouldn't. Sarah was in the kitchen when I got home, making coffee in her scrubs, about to leave for another shift. Where were? She asked without looking. Couldn't sleep. Went for a drive. The lie came so easily it scared me. She nodded like she didn't really care about the answer anyway. Maybe she didn't. I'm working until midnight. There's leftover pizza in the fridge. Of course there was. She grabbed her purse and keys, paused at the door. Oh, I weigh the rest of that Thanksgiving stuff. It was starting to smell. My heart stopped. All of it. Yeah, sorry. I know, worked it. Too little, too late. She left for work and I stood in our kitchen, staring at the empty garbage can. Like the last 14 hours had been erased from existence. Like nothing I'd done mattered at all. My phone buzzed. Jessica, last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about. I stared at the message for 20 minutes before deleting it. But I didn't block her number. That should have been my second warning. The next 2 weeks were. Jessica kept texting. Little themes. Photos of her lunch. Thinking of. Messages that made my chest tight with guilt and something else I didn't want to name. I told I was being friendly. That ignoring her would be cruel after what happened. More lies. Sarah worked doubles almost every day. When she was home, she was exhausted. We barely talked, barely touched. She'd fall asleep on the couch watching Netflix while I sat 3 feet away feeling like we were on different planets. The wedding planning sat untouched. Invitations unsent. Sarah would mention it sometimes but half-heartedly. Like she was going through the motions. Maybe we both were. I started working late too. Not because I had to, because Jessica was usually there. We'd order dinner to the office. Talk about everything except what had happened between us. But it hung there in every conversation. Every accidental touch. Every lingering look. Seemed different. She said one night, packing her laptop. Different how? Sadder. I almost broke down right there in the conference room. I made a mistake, I said. No, she said firmly. Made a choice, we both did. Same thing. Is it? That question haunted me for days. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, Sarah's mom called about the wedding venue. They need final numbers by Friday or we lose the deposit, she said. Sarah was on the couch, laptop open, barely listening. What do you think? I asked her. She looked like she'd forgotten I was there. About what? The wedding, the venue, our future. For the first time in weeks she really looked at me. Studied my face like she was seeing something new. Okay, I've been distant lately. My throat closed. This was my chance. To tell her everything. To confess and beg for forgiveness and try to rebuild what I'd broken. I'm fine, I said. Just stressed about work, another lie. She nodded and went back to her laptop. I went to the bathroom and stared at in the mirror. I looked the same on the outside. Same brown hair, same green eyes, same crook smile Sarah used to love. But inside I was rotting. 3 days later, Sarah found out. Not because I confessed. Not because I grew a spine and told her the truth. Because Jessica posted a photo on Instagram. Just the two of us at Murphy's bar that night. Taken by the bartender when we weren't paying attention. We were laughing about something, leaning close across the table, my hand covering hers. We looked like couple, because in that moment we were. Sarah's sister Emma saw it first, recognized me immediately, called Sarah at work. I was in a client meeting when my phone exploded. 17 missed calls, 43 text messages, all from Sarah. The last one just said, "Come home now." I knew before I walked through our front door. I could feel it in the air. Like the pressure change before a tornado. Sarah was sitting at our kitchen table. Wedding magazines spread out in front of her. The Instagram photo printed out and placed right in the center. She didn't look when I walked in. 8 years, she said quietly. Sarah, I can explain. 8 years we've been together, 6 months engaged. Wedding planned for next summer. Please listen to me. She finally looked. Her eyes were red but drowsy of empty. Who is she? Jessica. From work. How long? I wanted to lie. To minimize the damage. To say it was just that one night. But looking at Sarah's face I couldn't. 2 weeks. She nodded like she'd expected it. Are in love with her? The question hit me like a physical. No, but are not in love with me either. It wasn't a question. I opened my mouth to deny it. To say of course I loved her. That this was all a terrible mistake. But nothing came out. Because she was right. Somewhere between the ignored Thanksgiving dinner and Jessica's warm hand in mine, I'd stopped loving the woman I was supposed to marry. And she'd stopped loving me too. We just hadn't admitted it yet. The wedding's off, she said. Sarah, we can work through this. She stood and swept all the wedding magazines into the trash. No, we can't, because this isn't about her. This is about us. About how we've been pretending for months that we're happy. I am happy. Cheated on me. The words hung in the air between us like a sentence. I'll end it with Jessica. I'll never see her again. We can go to counseling. Sarah walked to our bedroom. Started pulling clothes from our shared closet. Where are going? My sisters can have the apartment. I never liked it here anyway. Each piece of clothing she packed felt like another nail in the coffin. This is really it. Or not even going to for us. She stopped packing and looked at me with something that might have been pity. For what? A man who finds comfort in another woman's bed when gets hard. A relationship where we both feel invisible to each other. She was right. We'd been roommates for months. Going through the motions. Planning a wedding because it was the next step. Not because we couldn't imagine apart. I'd cheated because I felt unseen. But the truth was I'd stopped seeing Sarah too. She zipped her suitcase and headed for the door. Sarah, wait. She turned back one last time. Know what the worst part is? I'm not even surprised. I've been waiting for her to leave for months. I just thought have the courage to do it honestly. The front door closed behind her with that same soft click as Jessica's apartment. The sound of my falling apart. I stood alone in our empty apartment, surrounded by the pieces of the future we'd planned together. Wedding invitations that would never be sent. Engagement photos that meant nothing now. I'd thrown away for 2 weeks of feeling wanted. My phone buzzed. Jessica, heard about Sarah. I'm sorry, want to talk. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the keyboard. This was my chance to make it right, to focus on healing, to become the man I should have been all along. Instead I type place her mine. 6 months later I was living with Jessica. It should have felt like winning, getting the girl who saw me. Who appreciated my efforts, who never ordered pizza when I cooked dinner. It felt like drowning in slow motion. Jessica tried, I'll give her that. She'd compliment every meal I made, even the disasters. She'd ask about my day and listen to every boring detail. She'd notice when I changed my hair or wore something new. All the things I'd craved from Sarah. But it felt hollow, performative, like she was trying too hard to be everything Sarah wasn't. Or maybe I was just broken now. The apartment we shared was nice. Better than the place Sarah and I had. Jessica had good taste, money saved, a promotion at work that came right after Sarah left. Success built on wreckage. Our coworkers whispered when they thought we weren't listening. Office romance was one thing. Office romance that destroyed an 8-year relationship and a planned wedding was gossip gold. Did her how it started. Thanksgiving dinner drama. She was engaged. 8 years down the drain. Poor Sarah, she seemed so sweet. I started eating lunch alone, avoiding the break room, working from home when I could. Jessica pretended not to notice, but I caught her watching me sometimes, studying my face like she was looking for cracks in the foundation. She was smart, she found them. 3 months into living together, I was cooking dinners. Salmon with of Jessica's favorites. She came behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. Smells amazing, she said against my shoulder, but her voice had a question in it, like she was testing whether I still cared about her praise. Just salmon, I said, or incredible in the kitchen. Sarah didn't know what she had. The mention of Sarah's name made my whole body tense. Don't what? Talk about her. Jessica stepped back. I could feel the distance growing between us like a physical thing. We can't pretend she never existed. Watch me. But pretending was exhausting. Sarah haunted everything. The way I cooked. The way I watched TV. The way I avoided certain restaurants and streets and songs on the radio. I destroyed 8 years of history and replaced it with that followed me everywhere. Jessica started working late again. Coming home tired and distant. The same pattern that had killed my relationship with Sarah. I was poisonous. A relationship. 4 months in, Jessica's friends met me for the first time. Dinner at some trendy place downtown. The kind of restaurant Sarah and I could never afford. So are the famous boyfriend, said her friend Claire. Jess talks about constantly. I smiled and played the part. Charming, funny. The guy who'd swept Jessica off her feet. But I caught the looks between her friends. The whispered conversations when I went to the bathroom. They knew how we'd started. They'd probably seen the Instagram photo that destroyed my engagement. How long have you been their friend Rachel? 6 months, Jessica said quickly. Not technically a lie. We'd been together for 6 months. But we'd been cheating for 2 weeks before that. The math wasn't hard to figure out. Rachel's smile was arctic. That's wonderful. So romantic, finding love at work. The judgment was thick enough to with a, I excused early. Claimed I wasn't feeling well. Jessica found me in the parking lot an hour later. They me, I said. They don't, they just said. Need time to adjust. They think we moved too fast. We did move too fast. Jessica leaned against her car, looking older than her 32 years. Do regret it, being with me. I should have said no immediately. Should have reassured her. Told her she was worth everything I'd lost. But I couldn't lie anymore. I regret how it happened. That's not the same thing. Isn't it? We drove home in silence. That night lying in bed next to her, I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember the last time I'd felt genuinely happy. It wasn't with Jessica despite her efforts to make me feel seen. But it hadn't been with Sarah either, not for a long time. Maybe that was the real truth I'd been avoiding. I wasn't unhappy because Sarah ignored me. I was unhappy because I was selfish, broken. The kind of person who throws away 8 years for 2 weeks of attention. The kind of person who burns down his and expects someone else to warm themselves by the flames. 5 months in, Sarah got engaged. Emma posted it on Facebook. Sarah radiant in a white dress, holding hands with some guy I didn't recognize. A doctor from her hospital. The ring was bigger than the one I'd given her. The smile was real in a way it hadn't been with me for years. She looked free, happy, like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The weight of me. Jessica found me staring at the photo on my laptop. She looks good, she said carefully. Yeah, okay. I closed the laptop. She's better off. That's not what I asked. I looked at Jessica, really looked at her. She was beautiful, kind, everything any reasonable man would want. But she wasn't home. She was a rebound I'd convinced was love. A bandage over a wound that went deeper than my relationship with Sarah. I think I need help, I said. What kind of help? Professional help, therapy. Something. She nodded like she'd been waiting for this conversation. I think that's smart. Those living together, it's not fair to. Her eyes filled with tears, she tried to blink away. Air breaking with me. I'm saying I'm not ready for this. For us, for anything. Because of her. Because of me. Jessica cried then. Really cried. The kind of tears that come from knowing something is ending before ready to go. I love. She whispered. I know. To love me. The question I'd been avoiding for 6 months. I love the way make me feel, but I don't think I'm capable of loving anyone right now. She moved out the next week. Back to her old apartment. Back to her before she got tangled with a broken man and his broken choices. I helped her pack. The least I could do. Will call me. When ready. She asked at the door. I don't know. She my cheek and left. Another soft click of a closing door. Another ending I'd caused. I sat alone in the empty apartment, surrounded by the ghosts of 2 relationships I destroyed. The therapist I eventually started seeing asked me about patterns. What do you think went wrong? I cheated before that. What was missing in relationship with Sarah? I told him about the Thanksgiving dinner, the feeling of being invisible. The need to be seen and appreciated. And Jessica saw. Yeah. How did that feel? Good. At first. And then? I thought about it, really thought about it. I needed more and more of it to feel normal. And when it wasn't enough anymore, I started resenting her for not being able to fix me. Fix what? The part of me that needs constant validation to feel human. He nodded like I'd finally said something worth hearing. What would it look like to fix that? I'm still working on the answer. It's been 2 years now. 2 years since that Thanksgiving dinner that started everything. Sarah's married. Has a baby on the way according to Emma's Facebook posts. Jessica's dating someone new. A good guy from what I hear. Someone who probably doesn't need to be told he's amazing every 5 minutes to function. I'm alone. Learning to cook for one. Learning to appreciate my own efforts without needing someone else to validate them. Learning to be seen by. It's harder than cheating. Harder than lying. Harder than burning everything down and starting over. But it's honest. Some nights I still think about that Thanksgiving dinner. 14 hours of love and effort scraped into a garbage disposal. I tell it was their fault for not appreciating me. But the truth is simpler and more devastating. I cooked that meal for the wrong reasons. Not out of love, but out of desperation. A grand gesture designed to make them see me the way I needed to be seen. When that failed, I found someone who would. And when that failed too, I finally understood. Can't cook way into being loved. Can't cheat way into being whole. Can't destroy everything built and expect to find happiness in the ruins. The people who matter will see when are worth seeing. The rest is just hunger masquerading as love, and it will devour everything, feed it until there's nothing left but the taste of ashes in mouth.